Hello, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name's Katie, I'm a mixed media sketchbook artist, and if you saw my video last week, then you'll know that I have been in Japan. So I was here for 2 weeks on my honeymoon with my husband, and we absolutely love Japan. I'm so happy that we went. We had the most amazing time in Kyoto and Tokyo, and I thought I would just share a few clips that I took whilst I was there, and today's video I'm going to be sharing some of the art. So you can see here in these very shaky clips that I did do some art whilst I was travelling. So this was on the Shinkansen, which is the bullet train from Tokyo to Kyoto, for the first half of our trip. I did film a lot more than this, but it was just too shaky because obviously we were on the train. But I wanted to include them just so you could see this come to life. But then we did go to Hiroshima, we did a day trip there and went to Miyajima Island, which you'll see next. And that's where I filmed the first part of this video. So it was absolute paradise, and I knew that I wanted to do a quick drawing on location whilst we were there on that island. So this is the place that I picked to sit down and just take a break. We had beautiful weather, it was so warm and sunny, and this was quite off the beaten track. It was away from the main tourist areas, so it felt really quiet. There were still a few people passing by, which was totally fine, and it just felt really magical to me. The light was pouring in, we had all the beautiful greenery from the trees, there was also a hint of sakura in the background, and also the very trademark Japan red. I thought I'd use the red that I packed in last week's video for Torii Gates, but here I used it for that red bridge, and I think that's just really iconic, and I really enjoyed putting in that pop of red into this piece. So I'm using my Sea White sketchbook, which you'll have seen again in last week's video, so I'll link that up in the cards and down below. But I wanted to keep this quite quick. I'm very conscious when I am drawing with someone. Obviously I was with my husband, and luckily I do draw quite fast, so it's never really an issue. I do get asked quite a lot how I manage to draw when I'm out and about with people, because I know that it can be a bit tricky. Luckily Mitch is extremely patient and I do draw quickly, so that worked really well in our favour, and I feel like I was able to get this down quite quickly. You can see here I'm using my brush pens just to put down the basic shapes. So a few colours there, including the beige Posca, which I use for the bridge. I'm trying to keep things quite loose. You can see that I will switch up the way that I hold my brush pens just to try and get a lot of marks down. And I am keeping things really loose and trying not to go too hard into the detail. Drawing quickly definitely helps with that. Here's an example where I'm sort of holding the pen in a different way, and I'm really keeping my marks really scribbly. I really want it to feel organic, and like nature isn't very neat, so I feel like this helps with that. You can see I've got my pencil roll to the right of me, so that was really helpful. It really helps for me to see everything that I've got and just grab them. Generally I don't put them back into the pockets, I'll leave them just lying on the top, and that just makes them really easy for me to grab and go. And then obviously when I'm finished with it, I'll put it all back in. But I find it much easier this way than having a pencil case and trying to sort of dig around in it. Here I am adding in some of the green. Now this was a really vibrant and very verdant place with lots of greenery, and it was difficult to kind of get all that down, so I kind of just suggest it. It's not super accurate in what I could see, but it's more that I'm trying to get the atmosphere and the vibes, so you can kind of tell that there's a lot of greenery there just from these marks and like how lush it was. So I'm not too worried about it sort of being exactly accurate. It's more just trying to get the atmosphere, and it's really hard to get down a place in my sketchbook, especially when it's beautiful. I feel like it's quite tricky, especially when you're not spending too long. So for me it's more about the process and trying to get the atmosphere and the vibes rather than doing it super how I can see it. I kind of just want to portray the feeling, if that makes sense. So now I've put down most of my main shapes and like the block shapes and colours with my brush pens. I'm coming in with my coloured pencils. So it's a mix of Derwent Drawing and Luminance pencils, and I'm just sort of defining more of the shapes and the areas that I've kind of put down with my base shapes first. I find this is helpful because it just adds an extra layer, and then I can come in with my details, really darken any shadows, really add more texture and interest, but having those base shapes down really helped me to know where I'm putting these marks because I don't sketch first. I don't tend to do like certain colours first here. I'm just sort of reaching for my pencils, I'll come back to one, I'll just keep picking it up as to what I need in the picture and just sort of moving around as I go. Here I'm using a dark indigo just to add in some sort of rock shapes. it doesn't necessarily match the shapes that I've put down, and that's the beauty of the line work, is you can sort of amend it as you go and just suggest things. So it doesn't have to be super accurate, and I think that's the beauty of fast drawing. I'm going to do a flip through on my Patreon sharing all of the art that I've done during this trip, but I definitely found that I preferred the faster work more than some of the longer work that I did back in the hotel. I also really love drawing on location because I remember the place better. It holds more meaning to me, it holds more memories, and so I'm really glad that I sat down and did this on Miyajima during this time. Even though it was only 15 minutes, it still feels really special to me, and I'm so glad that I did. I just want to add on some more suggestion of leaves, so I'm using my olive yellow luminance just to suggest them. Again, I'm keeping my marks really scribbly and loose. And thankfully I had Mitch with me, so I didn't pack my tripod. I wasn't actually planning on filming content when I was there. I really wasn't sure how much time I'd have, and I don't think I created that much, but then it wasn't really a trip for creating. It's still something that I absolutely love and I'm really passionate about, but this wasn't a trip for art. This was a trip for our honeymoon to relax and spend some wonderful time together. Unlike my trip to Vienna, which was purely about creating art, and I obviously created a lot more. But I'm still really glad I did create, and it's a really nice way to just calm down. There were a lot of tourists. Obviously we were going peak season in Japan, so I just felt really mindful to sit down with my sketchbook and take some time out and just enjoy the nature. It was a really special time for us, and I'm really happy that I did do these on location in Japan. So here I am coming in with the red, and I just really like that. I think that red really works. Obviously it's there in person. I wouldn't have thought to use red otherwise, and I don't use red very often, but I really love the way that this looks and how it stands out and draws your eye. I'm using the light cobalt blue Neocolor just to add some suggestion of the blue skies, and I do also add in some little marks for the grass. And here we go. This is the final piece. So Miyajima Island in 15 minutes. So I just added that note on in the bottom corner. But like I said, I really am pleased with this. I like the colours and the vibes. Scribbly, but I feel like everything I wanted to show is there. Next up, we are back in Tokyo, so the second leg, and again I did a drawing whilst we were there. This is in Shinjuku Gardens, which is absolutely huge. It's really cheap to get in. We absolutely love this place. We did find Tokyo really busy in terms of people, and obviously very crowded. So coming here, it was really nice just to get away from the hustle and bustle and the busyness of the city. You wouldn't know that this was in the center of Tokyo. It really is next to all of the busy streets, and it was so nice to just come here and relax again with the blue skies and take my art supplies and just take some time to relax. So you can see here I have actually prepped my paper beforehand. Before I left, I put down some Gansai Tambi watercolor here onto my page. It did buckle it a little bit, but I'm really glad that I did put down this base. It really meant there was kind of less work for me to do. So again, this was maybe 15-20 minutes, so not very long, but it really helped to have that color first. And I did put down, purposefully, I put down the pink because I knew we were going in the Sakura season. And I did plan on it being a spread where I drew the cherry trees, so that was pre-planned, and I'm really pleased with how it turned out. So I'm just using my pencils just to mark off some of the main sort of elements in the spread. So compared to the first spread which we just saw, I don't have to put down the main shapes here because I've already got colour on my page. So instead I'm using my lines, and like you can see I've put down the branches and the line of the bank and the river beyond. So instead of putting down the base shapes, I'm just putting down my elements using my line work. This is a Zig brush pen which I bought whilst I was out there. Next week I'm going to be showing a haul of everything I bought in Japan, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But I'm just using my coloured pencils, a little bit of brush pen and my Neo colours just to add to the details and really define the things that I can see in front of me. Again, it's not super accurate. These Sakura trees weren't quite where they are for this layout, but I really wanted to make use of that pink. And then over on the left, I kind of just go over it, but it's nice to have that pink base. So even if you don't prep your paper with colours that kind of make sense with what you're drawing, I think it still helps to have that base and you can still make it work. I did a spread in the woods when I was back at home a few months ago, and there was some colours in there. Again, I think I used some pink. That really wasn't there in the final piece, but it didn't matter. It was still nice, and like, your colours don't have to accurately match what you see. So here I am with an Albrecht watercolour marker, again using quite scribbly marks just to draw in some of these trees back there. Now I did have to cut out quite a lot of this footage because I should have had the camera on the other side, so you're mostly just getting my hand rather than the marks I'm making, so apologies for that, but the ground was quite uneven, so we kind of had to do it this way round. So I did have to cut quite a lot, but I still wanted to show you anyway. Again, I'm using that red, so the azaleas were also blooming as well as the sakura, and there were these really round bushes on the far bank that I thought worked really well. I really love that pop of red. Again, I've definitely got a colour palette for Japan, which I might use for further work. Over on Patreon in May, we're going to do Japan month with all the photos that I took because, well, not all of them, I took so many, but we're going to use them as our references and do a whole month on Japan, and maybe I'll do a set colour palette, I'm not sure yet. But there were definitely colours that I used more, including the pinks and the reds against the greens. So I'm just adding some line work to the cherry tree. Here's Mitch again doing a little pan, which was really kind of him, and here I am sat on the grass, took my shoes off, just enjoyed the sunshine and was just drawing away very happily. It was a little bit windy, so here you go, this is the reality of drawing plein air, but it was still wonderful to do, it still felt very relaxing, and I'm so happy that we took this time out in Shinjuku to do some drawing. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed seeing this come together and have enjoyed seeing a little bit of my process whilst I was in Japan. So I'm about to show you the final piece and how it turned out, but I hope you enjoyed watching. I hope you enjoyed seeing my process of these pieces whilst I was in Japan, and a huge thank you for watching, thank you for all your support, and I will see you next Sunday in my new YouTube video. See you later!